Witch Elizabeth, you made it sound really awesome, which made me nervous now. Okay, first I want to start by thanking Shirley for trusting me with her stories. And it took me a long time to get to this point, so thank you for not croaking before we made it here today. I kept telling her that, you better not die. So I picked out 4 of the chapters are just short, but I picked out 4, maybe 5. So the first one I'll share is to town. Are we going to town? I asked my sister as we wound up in the canoe. Yes, Florence said, but she had sadness on her face. I was confused because visiting Uncle Brody always meant lots of belly laughs. We all piled into the canoe and away we went. Reaching over the side, I touched lily pads and plants as we quietly glided by. Dragging my fingers through the water, I created a tiny wake that would soon disappear from the river. And I chose this one to read because all the times that I was talking to Shirley, like she remembers her dad's canoe. I asked her what color it was. She remembers where her and her siblings all sat in the canoe. So I made sure that when I drew that little sketch on this page that I had everyone sitting where she recalled that they all sat. The next little chapter is called Too Young. At first I was too young to go to class. Every morning a supervisor told me to put on my coat and walk alone to the minister's house, which was a good distance from the school. I was to become the playmate of the minister's young daughter. I made the long trek there and back alone every morning. One day, the girl gave me a tiny toy to take back to the school with me. It was a little stuffed gray mouse, small enough to keep in my pocket. It was the first gift I received at St. John's Indian Residential School. I spent my afternoons back in the dormitory, separate from the others. All the supervisors were busy with the older kids, so there was no one to watch me. I had to do everything for myself. I had to entertain myself. I did everything alone. I played with my little gray mouse. There was no one to watch over me in the afternoons, so for my safety, they tied my ankle to the foot of the bed. And this is one of the funnier stories she shared. The Xinguang move. Apparently she's taught it to all of her family. There were other kids I didn't like because they were mean. We had conflicts, even at an early age, and we had to figure things out on our own. I was little, skinny, and real wiry. We had to make our own comfort, and we had to find ways to protect ourselves from bullies. One day, one of the big girls came at me. I didn't know how to get her before she got me, so I ran toward her. I didn't think, there wasn't time. I jumped up on her back before she did the same to me, and I grabbed her by the shoulders, put my knee in her back, and took her down. We hit the ground hard, me on top of her, and that was that. Word spread fast about my Xinguang move. If you mess with Shirley, she'll put you down no matter how big you are. Nobody bothered with me much after that. And the scarf. When we could, we went for walks downtown. There were big ditches down the side of the road where they were building houses. One day I saw something bright in the ditch. One of the other girls saw it at the same time. I dove for it like a baseball player, and I managed to get it before she could. It was a beautiful silk scarf with flowers, but it was covered in mud. I took it home and washed it. The other girl carried a grudge for a long while. Eventually, we had a drag-em-out fight over it. I used my Xinguang move on her and kept the scarf. And this one, the confirmation dress. This one, when I did a lot of the drawings, they might look simple, but I did ask Shirley for a lot of the details and tried to include them. Like for the confirmation dress, the first time I showed it to her, it wasn't long enough. And the sleeves were too long, so I shortened them. And the little shoulders, she said they were really puffy, so I had to make puffy shoulders. But the story really stuck with me because before Shirley went to residential school, she was already a Christian, or at least your grandfather was. So this story really hit me hard because in the end, it wasn't a very Christian-like thing what happened to you, but I'll read it. The confirmation dress. In the evenings, we went to the sewing room to make our confirmation dresses, and the supervisor helped us. My dress was all white with a big white skirt. I loved it. I cut the pattern out myself and hemmed it all by hand. Then I embroidered flowers all around the bottom of the skirt and on the collar. It took me forever to embroider all the pretty little pink flowers, but they were beautiful. The dress made me happy. I had such a wonderful feeling making it. I stood tall in church that day, proud to wear something so beautiful that I had made myself. But I wore it only once. After the ceremony, it was taken from me and I never saw it again. I don't know where they took it or why they did, just that it wasn't mine anymore. It wasn't like getting slapped on the hand. It hit my heart so hard it left a mark. And I made something for Shirley, and I know there's lots of beaters out there, so please don't judge me. But I put a lot of heart into it, and I'll give it to her now. Open it first, you might not like it.
Oh my.
I'll give you a hug. One of the first stories that I heard from Shirley was here when we were students together, and it was my first year here. She graduated in 2009 at age 69, and I graduated a year later and I was 50. But we were in Professor Sheila Redmond's class, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't read this story today, but it was the one where she was dared to faint out in the chapel, which she pulled off whatever and did. But that was the very first story I heard. So when I drew that picture, I always picture her being carried out with one eye open, like she pulled a fast one. So that was one of the really fun ones to draw. And one of the other fun ones to draw, and I have her in my contacts with this picture now, was the picture when they snuck out to the barn before breakfast that one day. This one. And this one. Oh.
That picture of the barn used to be way down there in the parking lot. And we used to do things. We were risk takers. If we wanted to have fun, we had to make our own. And one of the things that I don't know, I hadn't done it in the past, but I heard the other girls talking about it, about going into the barn and being able to swing from the one loft to the other on this big road. Oh, I want to go do that. So we all got together. And we used to, and as an excuse to go out there, we used to go down to the kitchen. And there had a big pail of, what's what they called it, slop pail. Because it was the leftovers from the dinner the night before, and from the staff dining room and so on. So that was the food for the pigs. So we used to go down to the kitchen and grab the bucket. And if anybody stopped us, we're giving this to the farmer to take to the pigs. We didn't tell them we were taking it. So that's what we did. We used to go up to the barn. It was still dark because it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and especially in the winter time, so it was still dark and you could sneak over there and anybody seeing that. And give the food to the pigs and then run from the hayloft and have so much fun. And then we'd come back in time for breakfast. We'd listen for the bell to call us to breakfast. And we started running in. I said, hey, we're all full of hay. So we started cleaning each other off. Well, we couldn't get it all off. And I was the last one, and the supervisor was so busy with the ones in the front. I just cleaned my hay off me, and I went right by her, walked into the line, because she was so busy scolding the other girls. I got away with it. So we did that all the time, things like that. I want to thank Joanne for writing these stories. I always, I continually think about that and how that would make such a good reading material, and just in short stories like that, because there were many, many short stories in our life. And that was one of the ways that we dealt with the negativity that was surrounding us. We made our own joy, and we reveled in it. And that was the way that helped a lot of us to get through the year. I used to come back to the school in September. It was very sad when that happened. But by November, I was okay. I was out of it. I was into enjoying my life again with my friends who I had made and still have them to this day. And we shared many, many adventures. There's another one in the book where I ran away from the school as well. And we didn't put all that in there, but it's a very long story. The whole length of the story is not in there. But we ran away and did things like that, you know. Got taken back to the school, ended up back here, got our hair all cut off, and we looked silly for a few months. But it was an adventure. We always kept that in our memories and in our thoughts and in our hearts. That's where resilience comes from. That's what it's all about. And you find this strength as a child in your spirit. Your spirit gives you that strength. And you find out how to use it. How do you use your strength to be a happy person? I remember another colleague of mine, she was in residential school. She was a few years older than me. But, and she worked with children with Shingwalk right from the beginning as well. She passed away now, and we miss her. Her name is, oh geez, Susie Jones. And we used to have very good conversations together about life at Shingwalk. And she said, you know what, I really made the decision to be happy while I was here. And you know, like she was 5, 6, 7 years old, and she made that decision. We used to have to deal with a lot of, it's almost like adult decisions at a very, very young age. We lived with our emotions, and we sympathized with each other, we empathized with each other, we shared, we did all the things to bring the closeness, to create that closeness that we didn't have, even though my sister was in the other dorm, and the other one was in the senior dorm, and my brothers were all across on the boys' side, you know, so they were my family, but we weren't allowed to interact with the family. So we created another family, and we all did that. And if you didn't, you suffered. You suffered a lot. And so that's why I'm forever grateful to the girls that I had made friends with. We'd come together year after year after year, and when we'd come back in the fall, we'd talk about our summer vacation and what we did, and you know, who we met, and what did our families do? Did we celebrate? And it was just, it gave us something to share when we got back to the school. We talked about going blueberry picking and fishing and doing all the things that we love to do and families love to do. And I have that special relationship with you because we lived down the reserve in Chapel. It wasn't even our reserve. It's not because we never got the reserve till we're 80 years later. And so we lived down in the Chapel Reserve. They put us down there, our whole community. They moved our whole community down to the Chapel Reserve. And it's just what they did at that time. You had no say. You had no say in where you were going, not even as an adult. You had no say that that's not our reserve. We want to live in our own reserve. Give us our reserve that we're supposed to have. And it wasn't until I became chief of Anishinaabe Cree First Nation in 1995 and launched the land claim to get our community back. 25 years later, with another chief that was in, we'd gone through 2 or 3 chiefs at that time, and we finally got a settlement with the federal government. When they talk about negotiations, it's only negotiations on their part. There's no negotiation on the part of the First Nation. And that's why it took so long, such a long stretch, to be without our homeland. And that's all we could think of was we were building our community in Sault Ste. Marie. You had to come to Sault Ste. Marie. We were up in Thunder Bay at first, and I said, that's too far away. Let's go to the Sioux at least. It would be close to our own territory, and so we drive up to Wawa and over to where the community of Anishinaabe was established at that time. So it's been a pretty long journey, a pretty interesting one, one filled with hope and tragedy in some cases, and not knowing what's going to happen, but always having to keep the faith in terms of the value of our First Nation people, our relatives, the value of that keeps you going and moving towards saying one day it'll all come together and we'll be back in our community. I was just telling Joanne just before we got started, I said, Joanne, it's finally here. The day we always talked about. And that's the way it is when you're living for today and so on. All of a sudden that day, you've been working so hard to make happen, sharing our stories, sharing our tears, because that's what we did. And I thank Joanne for all her patience with me and her incredible talent. She's got such and the way she put the book together, we were very concerned about what are we going to put in the residential school book. We didn't want to traumatize children who would be reading the book today, and I think it doesn't. It pulls at the heartstrings, but it doesn't traumatize children. Got feedback from a couple of people that read the book to their children, and it just made them ask questions about the residential school, and that's what we wanted, and that's why we, in the first place, when Joanne and I were talking, we talked about how, and that was very, very difficult to come to exactly what it was that we should be putting in that book. And Joanne, she did the photography, which is the real people, and the drawing on top of it. The photographs are all black and white, depicting that era. And the drawings are all colorful and add a lightness to the book. So that was a really good balance in how it turned out to be, that you could read that and not get traumatized by that. And I think Joanne did an incredible job. I thank her very, very, very much for that opportunity that she chose to write my story, and because that's what the total goal of the children of Shinwalk. What is my daughter? The Children of Shinwalk, which is the organization we founded in 1990. That's a long time ago. And very, very many former students came through in those years. And our circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that's why we feel it's really important for us to be dealing and teaching and urging the next generation to come forward and take over the reins. And I think all of this work, things like the storytelling, the ceremonies, the having the powwows and the sweats and all the teachings that are being undertaken by across the road as well. They're always celebrating something over there. And I like to go to that too. And we're always celebrating something here too. And I'm just, as I came in with my son, looked at the construction out there, because the last time it was bare ground, and I'm going, wow, it looks really good. You can feel that, just like when she made and she started the book. I can feel that same feeling, and I think it's going to be really, really great. Anyway, you talk a little bit.
Shirley was saying that the book's being well received, and so I have one more before. It was our publisher emailed one day, and they were really excited, and I didn't know what it meant, so I had to Google it. But the book was chosen as a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard book, and it also has a story. Most of the books are softcover, but for the Junior Library Guild library people, they get hardcovers, so they sent each of us one copy. So.
Nice, a hardcover. Awesome. I love the picture that she drew.
I think we've been talking about, it's been a long time coming, this book, and I think it was October 5th, 2022, where we had our first meeting. And that was because our mutual friend, Joni McGuffin, had said that Shirley has such great stories, we need to save them, so why don't you write a book? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But then she set up the meeting, and I started hearing her stories, and then I found the courage to do it, because like she said, they're leaving, walking on, so it's important that we pick up the word so that Canada's nasty history isn't forgotten, so it's not repeated.